Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Johannes, for the introduction. I'm very happy to be here today to talk to you about how Effect can help you write HTML forms. And I promise there won't be any mention of AI in this talk. The only AI thing in this talk is this picture of a beautiful HTML form melting like an ice cream. Or should I say an HML form? I don't know what it is. So my name is Jérémie. I'm a staff engineer at Inat Form. And I've been working with TypeScript and JavaScript for about 10 years now, and Effect more recently for about a year. And I remember being in Vienna last year, very lucky to be in Vienna last year for the first Effect conference. And I cannot believe that I'm here today on stage to talk to you about Effect. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or on Discord, and you can also talk to me during the break. So a word about my company, Inat Form. We were very happy to be a sponsor of the conference last year, this year, probably like for other years coming. And so what do we do at Inat Form? Inat Form is on a mission to be the global platform where sponsors and sites partner to accelerate medical research. So among other things, we build a marketplace where pharmaceutical companies go on and post clinical trials, and hospitals go on and apply to these trials. If you find this interesting, do check us out on inatform.com. And to build this marketplace, we have to create like a fair amount of forms. Forms that look like this, or like this. And these are coming straight out of this marketplace that I just talked to you about. And forms are simple, right? Right? We just need to pick like one of the many existing frameworks for that, and a decent component library, and put it all together. It's a piece of cake. Or is it? So we're going to build like a simple example together. And we're going to use React Form for that, and Mentin as a component library. And this is coming almost straight out of the React Form documentation. So this is a very simple form with 3 inputs: first name, last name, email, and a submit button. Next, we want to add a multi-select input to ask for the user for their favorite front-end framework: React, Angular, Vue, Svelte, whatever. Okay, we want to do things right, and we want to add validation to this. So again, coming straight out of the React Form documentation, they're using yup. It would not have been my first choice, but whatever. Now that we have the schema, we can like plug it using the yup resolver inside the useForm API from React Form. And we can use the errors coming from this validation, and plug them into our inputs. So the next step, the next logical step, is to read from and write to an external API, a server. So this is how we do it. But what if it is the first time that like we write this form? Like probably like our server is going to return like a null value or an undefined value. So we need to handle that. We need like a default set of values. And now that we have these default values, we could imagine having a reset button to reset, to clear the form and start from scratch. This is how we do it. All right, now we want to add some business logic. Anytime the user will choose the Angular framework for their favorite front-end framework, which is kind of weird, we'll show a little message on screen. But by doing that, we're introducing like a new problem, which is the form will render anytime favorite value will change. So how do we solve that problem? We just need to like use sub-components. So for example, we put everything about the user info into one component, and everything about the user preferences with the business logic in another component. And now we've isolated this issue in this subcomponent, and only that subcomponent will render when the preferences will change. So we've solved that issue. So we're almost done here. We just need to add a little bit of styles, and we're done. So just to give you an idea of what we've done, we like added a schema here, user info, user preferences, and finally our app. So the point I'm trying to make here is not really, it is not really a piece of cake. First of all, like among many other things, like the schema is not a first-class citizen. It is like on another file. We have to like deal with it, and it's not connected very easily with the rest of the form. And among other things, like there is too much boilerplate code. So more on that. I think in this boilerplate code, like there is this form mechanics and the form aesthetics is very tightly coupled together. So what do I mean by that? Going back to the initial form, This is what I mean by form aesthetics. It's all about the business logic and whatever you render on screen. All the rest is form mechanics. So let's imagine a better experience together. What if there was a new mysterious library called F? And from that library, we could create like a form definition where the inputs would have the UI part and the schema part embedded into one thing. So text input.required. I have the text input part, which is the UI part, and required is about the schema part. So all of this is coupled together here. And only now I can compile this definition to something that can be displayed. And only now I need to make a choice about what framework I want to use, React Hook Form and Maintain, for example. So now I have this display object that can be rendered on screen. I just pick properties out of this display object and render my form like this. We can add the API stuff like before. We can isolate, add the business logic, and we're done. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to announce today that this is not a dream. You can start using Inat Form today to build your next form. And in case you're wondering why I've been talking about forms for this whole time at an Effect conference, all of this is powered by Effect and Effect Schema. Woo! So this is what it looks like using Inat Form. You can pick everything you need for the definition part out of the core and the fields package. You can pick everything you need from the React Hook Form package and the Maintain package to build the layer that you will later inject and use in runsync to build something that can be displayed. And all the rest stays the same. What I've showed before is still the same. So what have we gained by doing this? So we now have smaller fields that combine the UI definition part and the schema part. Text input.required again. It's the schema is now a first-class citizen in this schema, in this framework. We have lowered the cognitive loads of developers writing forms because it's more about aesthetics and less about mechanics. All the mechanics is hidden behind the scene. We have achieved standardization, meaning that when we write forms and we want to write form at scale at our company, we just need to pick existing fields from an existing library, an existing package. We don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. You can compose definition blocks together to build more complex definition, and you don't have to reinvent, restart new forms from scratch. You can just reuse some part of forms that you've done before. Thanks to dependency injection and thanks to Effect, the choice of the external library that you use for the form and for the component library is removed. It's extracted away. You can decide it later on. You can also extract the schema out of the definition object and use it in other part of your software. For example, server-side to decode whatever requests your form is sending to your backend. So you don't have to rewrite it in the backend. And finally, we have a better developer experience because now we are manipulating symbols and not strings. All the ID goodness of find all references or rename, stuff like that works on symbols but doesn't work on strings like before. So that's all I wanted to share with you today. If you find this interesting, go on and give it a try on this repository. Have a look at the example folders. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there. Among other things, there is things to handle collections and lists that I haven't had time to cover during this talk. Keep in mind that it's still early and the API will most certainly break. But go on and write new fields, write new layers about new components libraries that you like or new form frameworks that you like, and share with the community and be in touch with me. Thank you very much.